Lesson 64 is about classifying quadrilaterals, and you can see we've got a table to begin with. If you'd like to pause the video now to get this part of the table written down, you may. As we go through this table, we're going to fill in shapes as we go. Now, the shape is going to be written in our first column. The characteristic of that shape is given, and the name of that shape is also given. Now, when we have a trapezium, what that means is that no sides are parallel. And if we had a trapezium, what that would look like, maybe we have something like this. We've got no sides that are parallel. Now remember, parallel means that they're running like a railroad track. So if we look at this shape, we've got all straight lines in there. We're assuming they're straight. I'm drawing them by hand for this one. Okay, we can see that there's no railroad track lines. These are all going to intersect at some point if we were to continue them. That looks a little straighter. Still not perfect, but we know that no sides are parallel. Now, next one is a trapezoid. That's one pair of parallel sides. We've got a trapezoid tool. Now the trapezoid tool, see if you can see it over here on the right. Here's our trapezoid. We have one pair of parallel sides. So if we draw it out, it's going to look something like that. You can see, and we're going to change that color so it's red. That looks nice. And we'll actually undo twice, so we can just use red once. And you can see that trapezoid. The top line and the bottom line are parallel to each other. One pair of parallel sides, because the sides would intersect at some point. They're not parallel. Next is a parallelogram. Two pairs of parallel sides. Let's look for a parallelogram. Well, keep your eyes open. Let's move to the next page. Oh, here's a parallelogram. Okay, two pairs of parallel sides. There we go. There's a parallelogram. The top and the bottom are parallel, and the two sides are parallel. We've got a parallelogram. Now, the next one is a rhombus. And a rhombus is a parallelogram with equal sides. So if we want a parallelogram with equal sides, we're going to draw this out. That looks like about equal on all sides, and the way that we can indicate that they're all equal is to put tick marks. The tick marks mean that all four sides are equal, and that's a rhombus. Next, a parallelogram with right angles is a rectangle. Now you may have already seen the rectangle with our tools. Rectangle, oh here it is. Rectangle, if we go ahead and draw it. Parallelogram with right angles. Two pairs of parallel sides, and all right angles throughout. Now a square is a rectangle with equal sides, and our square tool is right here. So we can see when we classify quadrilaterals, looking at if the sides are parallel is a big part of it. Make sure you've got all these shapes copied down into your notes. Let's move on to our next example. True/false. All parallelograms are rectangles. Well, if we look at a rectangle, we've got it. And this is definitely a rectangle, and it's definitely a parallelogram. So, parallelograms are rectangles? That's true. But let's look at another. Let's look at this one. A square. A square is a parallelogram because it has two pairs of parallel sides. This is also a rectangle because it has all angles 90 degrees. A square is a special type of rectangle. But let's look at another. Let's go to our next page where we had our parallelogram. Let's look at this one. This is a parallelogram for sure. Two pairs of parallel sides. But there's no way that that's a rectangle because all of our angles are not equal to 90 degrees. So the answer to this question, we've just found it. It's false. There's no way that all parallelograms are rectangles. So we can circle it and move on to our next problem. This question says, draw a pair of parallel lines. Then draw a pair of parallel lines. The lines should intersect but not be perpendicular. What is the name for the quadrilateral formed by the intersecting lines? Let's go ahead and do that. So we'll draw a pair of parallel lines and we'll make them horizontal. 1 and 2. Then draw a pair of parallel lines, but the lines should intersect but not be perpendicular. If they're going to intersect but not be perpendicular, remember, perpendicular would mean that they're intersecting at a right angle. So that is perpendicular because there's a right angle. We're going to erase that, undo it, because that's not what we want. We want intersecting lines that are not perpendicular. So there's one. We'll do another. We'll make it as parallel as possible. There we go, that looks good. What is the name for the quadrilateral formed by the intersecting lines? Well, the quadrilateral, it has to be right here in the middle. If we look at this, we can see the outline. That is a parallelogram. So we've got our answer. And knowing the different types of quadrilaterals will help you to figure that out very quickly. Lesson practice will be on page 342. Make sure you've got your notes complete, and I'll see you during our next class.